My name is Carla Russo. I'm with the St. Louis Region SCCA. I've been involved with the SCCA for over 15 years. I've been doing street survival at least 10 years. We were trying to calculate up the years the other day, but it's at least 10 years that I've been involved, and believe that it's probably one of the most important things that I do. I know it. I've heard the testimonials from the parents, just like you have. So what we wanted to do was kind of put together a panel of 3 organizers that all have different perspectives, and I'm going to pose a series of questions to them so that they can give you their take, and hopefully it'll spark some creativity in your minds as to questions that you have for them. So I'm going to introduce each panelist, and then I'm going to ask the question, and I will hand the microphone down to these guys, and they can answer each of the questions. So first up, to my far left over here is Arnie Coleman. Arnie is from the Continental Divide region of SCCA, which is really located near the Colorado Springs, Colorado area, and he's been a member of the SCCA for over 21 years. Arnie's an avid autocrosser, campaigns a car in F-Mod, which is an open wheel class. He started coaching with the BMW Rocky Mountain chapter, is how he got into the street survival program. And his region was the first SCCA region to host a street survival school when SCCA started getting involved with the program. Arnie also serves on the SCCA Board of Directors as well as the SCCA Foundation Board of Directors. So Arnie, thank you for joining me up here. Not like I gave you much choice. No, you're not leaving yet. Just to my immediate left is Jose Hernandez. Jose is from the St. Louis Region SCCA and has been actively involved with the SCCA for over 15 years. He started coaching with the St. Louis BMW chapter back in 2005, 6. That's a long time ago. We've lost track. But he became actively involved in organizing the St. Louis Region SCCA hosted schools when we did our first school, which we think, from my records, was 2007 or 2008. To the best of my records, I believe Jose has participated in over 40 schools in the St. Louis area, because he was doing it before I got involved. So Jose's involved in leadership within the St. Louis region as the assistant regional executive, and he also actively volunteers pretty much with all the programs in the St. Louis region. So again, thank you, Jose, for agreeing to be up here. Again, not like I gave you much choice. Anyway, and then our last, and certainly not least, and our Circle of Excellence Hero of the Year, Tim Irwin, is from the Northwest Region SCCA. He is the organizer for their street survival program. Tim, I asked Tim to give me a little bio. I did edit a little bit, Tim, just so you know. I said in here that you're a millionaire. No, I didn't add that. Anyway, so Tim's bio is that he started learning about serious driving in high school by reading his brother's copy of Bob Bondurant on high performance driving. And he believes that it's a book that likely saved him from serious injury in a collision a year later in college. Tim finally got into autocrossing in 1999 and picked up a 94 R package Miata in 2001. Aside from years of co-driving, Tim's been racing Miatas pretty much ever since. And Tim's been instructing with the Tyrone Street Survival School since the first class that was held out in the Seattle area in 2006, 2007. Sounds like your records are like mine. Not 100% sure what year that first one was. It's been a while though. While Tim's passion has been in-car coaching, he became an event chair in 2016, in part to ensure that they had a program available when his kids were ready to go through the school. Since then, he's organized 7 events with an attendance of 20 students per school. Their current location, which is Pacific Railways, is very convenient to Seattle, but a bit of a tight space, so I'm sure we'll hear a little bit about how that affects putting on this school. Outside of that, Tim likes cycling, occasionally hiking, and he is the manager of an HR healthcare maintenance software architecture company called Ascentus. Thanks, Tim, for agreeing to volunteer. All right, so for my panelists, my first question up for you, and this kind of goes back to Kate's presentation. So you guys have all been involved in the program for many years. What is it that keeps you coming back to volunteer year after year?
The check. No. 2 things. One is selfish. I have to drive with these guys. And I would prefer that the students are much safer in what they do so that I don't get hit or hurt. The other one is just the students. It's just giving back. It's a way that I have found that I believe I can contribute and pay it forward.
For me, one of the items, it's a lot of fun, and that's why I really enjoy the in-car coaching. Is you can just have fun with these kids out there, and the other is that I do truly believe that we are saving lives. Once you've been an in-car coach and you've seen the development and confidence building that happens over a few hours of the day in car, that something's going on there.
So these guys took my two best answers. Seriously, both of those are, part of my consideration. Also, think about the fact that I'm helping other people help other people when I get a cadre of instructors together, and I'm pretty lucky. I've got modest but very dedicated crew of folks that always show up anytime I call them. And we all feel really good about ourselves, quite frankly, at the end of the day, as we know we've done good things and we're making drivers safe.
Okay, great. I have a lot of them found, as we know. I think I could probably read the questions. You guys can keep it. So, what do you feel are the top 3 things that a new organizer should be hyper-focused on making sure goes well when they do their first street survival school?
Okay, number 1, don't try this alone, okay? It takes a team. And there are varying levels of skills and specialties and talents that are required. Mix it up, okay? You're the leader. You're not necessarily the main doer of any event. If you don't do this, you're going nuts. Because even though you start in advance, the closer you get to your school date, the more hectic things become and really more crazy they become. Thanks in part to some of the parents of the students. You got people that cancel at the last minute. You got people that want to sign up after sign-ups are closed, and it just gets crazy. So being able to rely on a team of people to make sure that everything that needs to be done gets done is probably number 1 for me. Number 2, there's something that I tell all of my coaches, and we do, although I have a core team, we have people come in now on the periphery. But I always tell everyone that, up until recently, Street Survival is the only activity that Sports Car Club of America does that is not competition-based. And it's also not focused towards the members, okay? It's focused towards the general public. When the general public shows up to a Street Survival school, they have no idea who we are or what we do, what our experience level is, but they expect that we're professional, okay? Very often they're surprised to learn that we're all volunteers, but they expect a professional experience. So being professional throughout the day in what you do and how you act is a very important aspect of the school. And I really have to start, sorry.
I'll let these guys share.
All right, so we were talking in the last session about ad-libbing during the talk and such. I pretty much can't ad-lib, so that's right. One of the things for me is to try to make sure your instructors are on the same page, and that they're teaching. They know the goal of each element and how to teach that, and they're all generally doing the same type of thing. Relax. Okay, it's going to feel really hectic and you're going to get stressed, but especially if you have 15 people, most things are going to fall into place. And if you miss something, someone else is probably going to catch that and pick it up and take care of it. And sometimes if you miss something and it doesn't get taken care of, it's probably still not the end of the world. Unless it's the next item, which is watch your safety margins. I don't know how many of you are autocrossers, but we're used to people who can generally follow a set of cones and will they will be where you expect them to be on the course and that sort of thing. People are going to go where you don't expect them to be on the course. So keep an eye on that, and have your ground people keeping an eye out for someone who's not where they're supposed to be or that sort of thing, and just watch the safety side, because obviously we definitely don't want a crash to happen during street survival.
Delegate, learn to delegate. As first-time event organizers, you look at it as your child and you want to cover and protect it, you will go insane. The amount of time and demands on your limited resources. You need to learn to delegate. The other one is communicate. There are people in this room who will be very happy to give you their phone number, their email address, any question that you have. This is a problem, a barrier, something you've come up against. We probably have figured out 6 different ways to get it done. Do not hesitate to communicate with us. Some of us are real good about getting back, some of us take a little longer, but I promise we will get this done. Because we all have the common goal of team lives and saving them. It's as important to us as it is to you.
If you guys have add-on questions along the way, feel free, and we'll filter those in as we go. I guess as a follow-up question to that, you guys all talked about a team. So if I'm a new organizer, how many people do I need on that team? What am I looking for? Any one of you to answer that?
We started, our first school started with 10 members of the team. Because we didn't know what we didn't know. And so we brought together as many subject matter experts as we could find. If you'll sit still long enough and answer questions about something. We now do it with 2. But after 40 events, you take the cookie cutter and you tweak it and you bend it a little, and it works from there. So
I took over the street survival program before I was a manager at work, and those skills really do cross over a lot. And fortunately, I took over a fairly strong program with a good set of instructors and course workers, but most of the team that was putting together the events were essentially retired. And yeah, I took it pretty much, have run a lot of these events in terms of the organization, the registration, buying the food, all that sort of thing. And I can tell you, it takes between 40 and 100 hours to put together an event for 20 students. Because you have 20 students, you have 20 to 30 volunteers, and you have 20 to 40 parents. So right there's lunch for about 70 people that you got to figure out how to do. If you take the easy route, which I've kind of been doing, it's doable, but I cannot do more than 2 classes a year without having a team available to help out with us. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah, and in my experience, much like Jose, when you're starting out, it obviously takes a few more people than it would once you've done 10 or 20 or 30. As you progress and repeat, it's pretty much rinse, wash, and repeat, because the curriculum never changes, the requirements never change. So once you figure out how to get things done, just pushing that button is a lot easier. But starting out, probably 6 to 8 people organizing the different aspects of the team. And then, of course, the coach count depends on the number of students.
Okay, thank you. So what type of format do you guys run at your schools? What's your schedule look like for the day, number of driving exercises, anything about your lot area that might help some of the newer organizers as they're looking at putting the school on?
So I found that I'm a bit of a black sheep in that regard. Most of the people I talk to run the split school format, which I don't, so I'll let them talk to you about that. My school starts out, obviously, with registration. I keep the school together. I don't send, like the split format, I don't send half the students out to drive while the other half are in the classroom. I keep everybody in the classroom, which commences right after registration, around about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how much interaction I get. And the last thing I do in the beginning, the early classroom, is to introduce briefly the exercises, driving exercises, and how they tie into the vehicle dynamics, which we teach in the lecture prior to that. So then they go out to the exercises, an hour and a half or so, depending on the available time before they come back in for lunch. Then we do another short classroom session, and then more driving exercises, which are essentially the same driving exercises presented more challengingly. In other words, we might speed up the speeds as you're going through the slalom. We'll tighten up the friction circle perhaps. We reduce the times on the emergency lane change, the reaction times on the emergency lane change, because to me it's important to get repetition. The more times you do something, the more you retain.
So, I think we're using pretty much the same schedule that we started off with in 2007. It's worked for the most part, but we are using a single format as well. We can handle 20 people in the classroom and 20 people out on course, and can get 20 instructors, or actually usually I try to get 25 instructors, so we have some people on the ground. With the site limitations that we have, we physically could not put 20 students and their parents and another set of parents or a few extra instructors in the track office that we use as our classroom. We're literally using the reception area of the track for our classroom. So the single format has worked out pretty well for us. I mean, if we were at a larger facility, I probably would go to a double format so that we could expand up to 30 students, 15 each, somewhere around there. I'm pretty sure our area could support that. One of the things that we are looking at that my instructors suggested is that we, cut the wake up exercise back to one time through. One time through the break and one time through the fox and hound, and save that time for the second riding session and try to expand that, save that time for the morning driving session and try to expand that morning driving session a little bit, or even keep the morning session the same, but expand the afternoon driving session, because that afternoon driving session is where the kids have started to get a little comfortable. The elements are a little harder, because basically it's the same as the morning, except just ratcheted up a bit. And, the big request I have from my instructors is, hey, let's expand that afternoon session a bit, because that's really where they seem to be learning the most stuff, and they're doing the hardest things. So, give them more practice at that.
I'm the outlier. We run a split schedule. So in the morning for the 1 hour session, half of them are driving and half of them are in class. At the end of that, they switch and they go and receive. The drivers receive the same training that the ones in class got. At noon, we break for lunch, and then the second part is another split schedule. We do about 50 students, which means I only need 25 instructors, because an instructor is assigned to 2 students. We have 12 events from the book. We have reverse slalom, the whole series. You want to talk about it, we can meet later and I'll talk about the events. We're very fortunate, very blessed that we split the students and their parents in class. And the reason that we do this is I feel I can get a more candid answer from a parent about their behavior if their student isn't with them. And I can get more candid responses from students if the parents aren't in the room.
That's right. I was just thinking of a couple things. Carla mentioned that we have a pretty small site. Our primary area is 300 by 1,000 feet. And then we were actually able to talk to track and using the infield of turn 8, which is a big 180-degree turn, for our skid pad area, which really, opened up the main area a bit more and also let us run double skid pads in the morning and a figure 8 in the afternoon, which everyone really likes. If you ever learn to run a figure 8 in the afternoon, do it. There are so many things you can teach on figure 8. So, yeah.
The two sites we use are large enough to put the entire exercise area out at one time with plenty of room. We do, in fact, do a figure 8 for the skid pad. Morning session is just the skid pad. Afternoon, we ramp it up with the actual figure 8 exercise. And we can get 30 students comfortably through a linear session. 35 to 40 is pushing it, but we've done it. Makes the day a little bit longer.
Question,
I just want to throw in a little point there, because I've done these things since 2005 too, so we've been through quite a number by now. For those who are new, getting the timing down on how long it takes a car to do each exercise is important as part of setting up your layout. So slalom, lane change, braking, all take seconds. It's much longer on the skid pad. So if you have the ability to set up a double skid pad to where you don't have as many cars all lined up waiting for it, that really helps. Now, our goal is never to have more than 3 or 4 cars in line for any exercise. But we do also use the split schedule. At the size of our site, we can run about 30 cars, but we want to split up so that we don't have cars waiting in line very long.
Jane?
I know there's a lot of newbies in the room. Do you all do stages, or do you do a continuous course? And if you're doing stages, give me a good reason why.
In St. Louis, we use, of the 12, we pre-assign a shotgun start for 11 of them. And the skid pad is the one we don't pre-assign. Starting them out at different stages allows us to better control the flow, because our presumption is that there's a car waiting, a car finishing, and one in the event.
So you're saying they're going to spend 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there?
Correct.
That's a circuit style.
Circuit style, and then it also gives the coaches, we provide each coach with a small flip book of the exercise they're in, what it is that they should be talking about and communicating, what we're trying to get through to the students before they go. So in between events, they can stop, step to the side for a moment and say, here, by the way, this is what we're trying to do.
If I could just add on to that real quickly, we've got enough space that if I've got a student that's doing really well in the slalom and they're having difficulty in another, they've got enough room to be able to move back around and go back through that activity, because I've done that as an in-car coach. Nope, that wasn't what I had in mind, go back around, we're gonna do it again. So I've done that with them periodically to try to, reinforce the activity.
Yeah, as a point of clarification, for some of you that don't know what we're talking about and some that I just got a little confused, stages versus circuit. A circuit is when you've got all the exercises set up, you go through the slalom, and at the end of the slalom you go over and you do a threshold break, and at the end of that you go through the accident avoidance, and at the end of that you come over here and do the lane change, and at the end of that there's a skid pad, and then you go back and you go through the slalom again. A stage's setup is more, you do the slalom, and you come back, and you do the slalom, and you come back, and you do the slalom, and then something magical happens, and you move over, and you do threshold braking, come back, do threshold braking, come back, do threshold braking, then you change and do that. So, yes, they're boom, boom, boom in a circuit, but the circuit's doing a lap, basically, of the course. So.
We do a circuit. There simply isn't enough space on our site to do stages. We do try to remember to do a shotgun start, and by that I mean you send 5 cars out to the emergency braking, another 5 to accident avoidance, another 5 to the J-turn, and a few out to the skid pad. And that just gets people driving sooner than waiting in line at the beginning of everything. As far as backup on the skid pad, being able to run a double skid pad helps a lot. In the afternoon when it's a figure eight, you just tell the coaches, hey, if there's more than 3 or 4 cars lined up for the figure eight, skip it, do another lap. You'll get plenty of time out there.
So we do the stages because, as I said earlier, I think repetition is key for retaining information. It gives the coaches time to give feedback after each run through each exercise, making sure that the primary consideration is that the student is meeting the goals of the exercise. The slalom exercise is weight transfer. If they're not going fast enough to get the car lean, then you have another chance at pushing a little bit in the friction circle, for example. If you don't go fast enough, the car's not going to start losing traction. So, in order to teach the elements of vehicle dynamics, the cars have to be going at a certain speed. Sometimes it's a little quick, but typically it's not that quick. But it's important to get them going at the right speed so they can feel the effects of weight transfer, feel the effects of the tires losing traction, whatever. So, from our perspective, it's important to be repetitive and make sure that they understand what the goal of that particular exercise is and they have time to reach it. In my mind, if you do a circuit, you go through and they might actually meet that goal, but then immediately they're thrown into another situation. By the time you get through the circuit, it's kind of like what they learned in the first portion of the circuit gets lost. That's just the way I feel. Okay. I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. It's just.
But there's many of us who don't have enough room to
Sure,
stay.
understand, and that is a consideration.
That needs to be recognized.
Yeah, we're looking at, we have more room than we need, so it works for us. Yep, yes.
I was gonna ask you, it sounds like there are certain driving activities that these are the ones you cover, right? And somebody mentioned like flip books of like, these are the different activities. Are those all part of the curriculum that
Yes.
you're given?
Yes.
So the flip books, and at least unless National started setting them out, the flip books is unique, and I really, really like that idea.
So there's an organizer kit, and in the organizer kit, it will lay out for you how each of the driving activities is supposed to be laid out and what needs to be accomplished in that driving activity. So as a new organizer, in addition to getting your classroom curriculum, you'll also get an organizer's guide, and the organizer's guide is wonderful. It'll take you through everything you need to do by timeline. Okay, you're 8 weeks out, you're 9 weeks out from your school, you need to be doing this. You're 8 weeks out, you're 7 weeks out. So the organizer's guide is super helpful and gives you all those details. Yes?
Has the organizer kit been updated?
I don't think the organizer. Yeah, not recently. Yeah.
It's no longer on parchment. I didn't hear the question.
The question was if the organizer kit has been updated recently.
No. Susan was part of that project, and no.
Okay. All right. Any other questions that you guys have to follow up? Yeah.
I've been missing a couple pieces of this puzzle, but you said there's a classroom session of driving, right? So people that go ahead and drive, are they missing a big picture of what they're getting involved in? Is that the classroom that they're covering?
Yeah, I would say there can be an argument made for that because you're sending the kids out before they've had the classroom curriculum. That being said, I've seen it work both ways. In some respects, I've seen the kids go out and they do the driving activities, they come back in, they get the classroom, and they go, oh, it kind of reinforces what the in-car coach told them. If they get the classroom first, then they go out with the in-car coach. They both get, I think they really both get the same aha moment, they just get it a little bit differently.
One familiar and the other learn the practice, and then they apply the method.
And then they go back out again in the afternoon with the same activities again. So I've never had anybody say, wow, I really would have loved to have had the classroom before I went out and drove. Bill, have you had any? Funny that said that.
Well, what I suggest is having the youngest drivers in classroom first. Have your experienced drivers out on the driving course first. Because the younger drivers need to hear the more the theory of the weight transfer and vehicle dynamic stuff than the older ones do. And then, once they switch, then they're getting a little bit more information that way.
Right.
That's typically what I'd suggest.
Right. Another question back there?
Yeah, I had a follow-up question for, I think it was Jose. You mentioned splitting the parents from the students.
Yes.
So is it something where the students are in the classroom, but the parents always are outside? Or is it when A group's in the classroom, that's the B parents, and then vice versa?
We have A group students and parents and B group students and parents. So while one of the groups is driving, the parents are shagging the cones. So they're out on the course with the students. The split comes for us and we send the students to a completely different room. They both receive the same training. The parent training is from a different view. It's not necessarily the dynamics. We found it's easier for us to teach the parents what we're teaching the students so that they don't deprogram what we've taught the students. Because what we found was happening is students would have all these new skills and new ways of doing things, and the parents would just rebel and go, no, put your hands back at 10 and 2. So for us, it's just easier to say, listen, here's why we say 9 and 3. There's an airbag in there.
So like 2 classrooms, 2 instructors?
Yes.
2, okay. And the reason for 2 classrooms or put them in all in one is so that you try to encourage free conversation?
More candid conversation. It's a lot easier to ask this room if you've had any driving infractions if your children aren't here. It's easier to ask anybody in the room, show of hands, who's had a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
If I don't know that that's a conversation parents have with their children, at dinner, but it's going to come up today in class.
I don't separate the students from the parents, but I do in the classroom. I have the parents sit in the back of the room, have the students up front, because you get the parents nudging the student, hey, this guy's full of crap, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Or, that's just your
So just to add on, the biggest place that when we started doing this, and we're fortunate that we've got a great venue in St. Louis to be able to do it at. Not everybody has that luxury. We have it, so we're taking advantage of it. Is when it comes particularly to the situational awareness, texting while driving in the afternoon, because I ask the classroom of parents, because I usually deliver the parent session, is I ask in the room, how many of you text while you drive? So I'm going to ask all of you. Now, I know y'all are going to be very good street survival and say you've never done it, but honestly, how many of you have text while you drive? Okay, and we're teaching this shit. Come on, guys. But that being said, the scenario that I give to the parents, just so you know why this becomes a much different conversation, is the scenario I give to the parents is, okay, you can tell your kid all day long, thou shalt not. And when they are out of your sight, what are they going to go do? Whatever the heck they want to do. So let me give you a different scenario. You've told them you should not text and drive, and they're abiding by that. So they get home from school, they send you a text, hey mom, I'm home. And I am, I'm going to start on homework, I'll see you when you get home. And you happen to be out running errands, and in that process of reading their text message, getting back ready to respond to them, okay, you are killed in a car accident because of your texting. Now your child just killed you. And they get to live with that for the rest of their lives. And the stunned look I see on all your faces is exactly the same look I get on the parents' faces, where they go, oh, I get it. So my comment to them is, how about you sit down as a family and decide as a family, what is our family's position on texting and driving? Which is, if I'm in the car, I'm going to put on my do not disturb. I'm not going to respond to you till I get to a safe spot. Because the kid could be doing everything right. They're in the house, right? Safely texting you, I'm home. And because you're texting while you're driving and reading it, something happens. So it became a different conversation with the parents. It works for us, and I've had a lot of parents come up afterwards. You'd be surprised how many parents don't know that their hands should be at 9 and 3, seriously. I have half the classroom that doesn't understand that, because we were all raised at a time where it was 10 and 2. Mirror placement is huge. I tell parents, I said, the side of your car is super sexy, but you don't need to see it in your mirror. Honestly, it's a super sexy car, love it, but you don't need to see it. Okay? Any other follow-up questions on that last one? If not, I've got a next topic to move on to. Yes?
Just in terms of the venues that you all are using, could you just tell us what facilities or what types of facilities?
We use a venue called Arena. It's a 15,000 seat general purpose venue. They circus, they have ice hockey, they have motocross in it. It's good for us because that means they've got 10,000 parking spaces that we can utilize their parking lot for what we do. It allows us to have inside classrooms. We go upstairs to the club for the students class, and then the parents meet in the main entrance where we're at.
And how much is that space?
About $1,600 per rental.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's, but keep in mind, that for the facility, for what it is, that's bargain. I know it doesn't sound like it, but I do indoor restrooms, air conditioning,
And you're doing 40 kids.
and I'm doing 40 kids to make sure that the economics work. That's why we had to go to split schedule.
So we use Pacific Raceways, and for our main area, we use the paddock area, which, like they say, isn't optimal, but it's also the closest facility that we can figure out to the Seattle area. Previously, we used Remington Raceway Park, which is an old airport. Great facility in terms of space for driving, but it's an hour to an hour and a half away, and we saw our class numbers dwindling quite a bit.
So we have two venues. First is the big parking area at Pikes Peak International Raceway. It's triangular shaped. It's like 700 by 700 by 13 or 1400 feet. They also have a classroom facility there, real bathrooms, the whole 9 yards. The other facility is actually about 3 hours away from where we live in Colorado Springs. It's the Eagle County Regional Airport. We have the full run of the civil aviation ramp at one end of the airport. Both venues cost us $0.
Yeah, how much is your?
For Pacific Raceways, if you want to rent the actual track, I believe it starts at $3,500 a day. Our agreement with the facility is that we give them half of our profits from the event, which usually comes out to between $650 and $800 per event. The one downside of that, and why I'm probably going to start looking into some more local sponsors and get a little more money coming in, is that puts us at the very end. Literally, we are the last group to schedule dates for the year. And I took the last 2 available dates for 2020.
Okay, switching over to in-car coaches. How do you guys find and recruit new in-car coaches, and how do you get them trained?
Frankly, we get virtually all of our coaches from our local autocross group. Not only SCCA, but we have a BMW chapter, which is about an hour up the road, I-25. So we very often will cross-pollinate. When BMW running school, they need some coaches. They call us, we run up there and do that, and vice versa. So we've, I guess, I have one exception. The Eagle County site that we do is actually a school that is mostly manned by volunteers from the local community. I may have a chance to tell the whole story later on, but basically we have a small, about a half dozen SDC instructors, coaches, and organizers that travel up to this airport the day before the event. And then they have anywhere from, I think we've done 12, almost 20 local instructors who are not car club members until the day of the event. We have weekend memberships we can provide to those folks. And they're not competition drivers, they're not performance drivers, but they are auto enthusiasts, and we train them before and in between schools to understand and know the curriculum of the school, and they help us out in that regard.
So I had our classroom instructor send me the welcome screen that we showed. You probably can't see this, but There's 11 different car clubs, local car clubs represented on this screen that we get volunteers and instructors from. I'm an autocrosser. I push pretty hard among the autocrossers. But really one of my best recruiters for coaches are my current coaches. For one, they're spread around all these different clubs, and they enjoy it, they're excited about it. They're gonna try to pull more people in to help out with this.
We have BMW Club, Porsche Club, pretty much with the Audi. We have Corvette clubs. I pick them from within the SCCA, so I go to the performance driving experience. I performance the guy, car control. I go to rallycross, I go to autocross. Cars and coffee. If you can pass the online test and you're at all interested, I can get you coached to where this will be good for you, and it'll be good for us as well.
How do you train your coaches?
We start, in St. Louis, we start with assigning, because we're split schedule, we assign the B level to the instructor, so they have one student for the day. They go out with another instructor on the first session. So they sit in the back seat and listen to the coaching and interaction, in addition to the online course, in addition to the card deck. That way, when they come back in, we have a chief instructor, again, my friend Chrissy. If they have questions or they're having trouble, we can certainly answer them there. Usually by the afternoon, they're ready to not necessarily go with the A flight instructor. If they feel comfortable, we're certainly comfortable with that.
So I mentioned earlier today that we do a kind of a online review of the day the week before the event. I have a PowerPoint. I have all the various course elements that we'll be going through and talk through those. Before each session, one of the advantages of not doing a split schedule is that gives either me or my lead instructor time to take the coaches off and bring up a flip chart or whatever of, okay, this is what's going to happen this next event. Here's what we're looking for in these elements. And then the other thing is I try to have, I don't cut off my coach count at 20 with the 20 students. I try to get, 3 to 5 more coaches. For one thing, someone may get sick and not show up, but the others, I then put those coaches out on the ground at the elements, and they'll go up and talk to the student, talk to the coach, or usually we have them talk to the student, and then the coach listens in. Okay, that was great. I saw this from the ground, and let's work on this other element. And that both helps instruct the coach if they're maybe a little less familiar with things, and it gives a different perspective to the student.
Arnie doesn't train.
All right, so have you ever had a coach that wasn't effective, and what did you do?
You want the long version or the short version?
Yes, and I gave him another job.
Yeah, you
Short version.
I just heard him.
Yeah, we fire them. We release them to their destiny. We wish them back in Dios. Sometimes coaches repeatedly are not cut out for what we're asking them to do. As we used to say, they're all thrust no vector. They're passionate. They really want to, but they just can't get the fit right for what we need them to do. We'll definitely try and give them other things within the program to do. If it's just not working out, it's not worth their time and effort and consternation. It's not worth ours to continue the relationship. We say thank you, but this just isn't working out for us.
Fortunately, I haven't had to fire anyone yet, but I have, pulled coaches aside and said, okay, I'm seeing this out on the course, or this, or I've heard this back. Here's an area that you can work on improving. Even my classroom instructor, I was getting feedback that he was pale white, pale male. No, it wasn't that, but basically, he was running on. He was getting stale. The classroom was getting a little stale, and so we talked a little bit about, how we can lighten things up a bit and that sort of thing.
I said it before, you find something else for them to do. You always need co-checkers, okay? You might have somebody stay with a group of parents when they're out near the exercises and kind of explain what's going on. Just that simple.
So what is typically one of the biggest challenges that occurs on the day of the school, and how have you handled it?
So many exciting challenges. We showed up one time and the facility was locked.
Yes.
At 7 o'clock in the morning, the facility's locked. So we set up the table and start registration out front, and until such time as they show up and let us in. Because the venue we use is a facility they have concerts at, there are occasions when I arrive in the morning at 5 to start setting up cones that there are drunk people who've left their cars right where I don't want them. Just, if it can happen, it will happen, and you just have to relax enough to just be able to go, okay, we can work around this, we'll get this done.
Whatever works.
Yeah, I actually wasn't able to think of anything single major that we've had, at least when I've been arranged, but for me, it's just keeping things flowing on course and keeping things moving so that the students aren't sitting there getting bored in their car.
I think my single point of frustration, not a showstopper, but as an organizer, is the last minute cancellations and late registrations. Dealing with those is really frustrating when you're trying to organize, get the school running. Somebody calls you at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, Johnny broke his arm last night and he won't be here. But can this other person go, or that kind of stuff. So that's it for me.
Bill?
Yeah, to follow up on that, for the new people and maybe new registrars, we keep registration open no matter if the school is full. All right, we want to build a wait list. I don't care how big the wait list is. That captures people, that captures email addresses for us. So the next time you open up a school and we send the notice out that a school's open, it goes to those kids too, and those parents. So we got into a fairly major tussle last year with one registrar that just demanded that we close his school on the schedule. And people were emailing me and calling me saying, hey, I've heard about this school, but I don't see it on your schedule. Where is it? And you say, well, I'm sorry, but it's full. But I've just heard about it yesterday. It's laid on an email chain, or it's in a newsletter or something. So absolutely, positively, we are not closing any registrations anymore.
And I think just to add on to that, there was a point I made in one of the sessions I delivered on the SCCA convention side, is to keep in mind the people that attend these schools are not us. For those of us that are car enthusiasts, we are waiting, like literally we're calling every 5 minutes if we're on the wait list. Are we in now? What about now? How about now? Am I in? These parents might have registered their kids in January for a school that's not happening until October. They probably forgot about it. So it's really not uncommon that when you go to send out your informational email 2 weeks ahead of your school date, that somebody comes back, oh, little Bobby and little Sally now have their ACT test that day, or they now have select soccer camp or whatever. So, they're not like we are, where we've blocked our entire weekend open. We're waiting to come off that wait list no matter what. They're not like us, they're different. And you just have to recognize that. So the wait list becomes really critical to you keeping your school at that full level content. So always be working your wait list. When you do get a cancellation, immediately go to your wait list and pick up the next kid off the list and get them moved in. And that is a manual activity that you need to be doing. We don't do that for you at a national level. You've got your confirmed students, and then you have your waitlisted students. When you see an opening, grab that opening and move the next one on the list in.
You contact them.
Yeah, you contact them.
The
MSR
MSR system
doing it.
does not do that automatically. There's
Right.
no bells and whistles in there.
Yeah, Jane.
I think it's important also for the new organizers, well, and I do this all the time. I have a list above my computer of when ACT tests are, SAT tests, college football games, because I do two schools in Columbus, Ohio, and boy, I don't want to be there the same time, the same weekend as they are.
Right.
You really need to be cognizant of the things that could go on around you.
Yeah, Jane brings a great.
If you focus on a couple high schools, find out where their prom is, find out where their homecoming dance is. If, you know, pay attention to their sports teams. If they're, you know, in the championships, you're going to get a lot of cancellations.
Right, and I think that's, you know, as you're scheduling your dates, certainly being cognizant of those things. If you're in a venue where date availability is restricted, unfortunately, you gotta take what you can get and hope for the best. You know, that's, I wish I had those date options to choose from. Any other questions for the organizers, for the panel up here, rather? Oh, Arnie's got a comment, one moment.
I just wanted just a quick note about scheduling. Your environment may be different, but where I'm from, we found that Sunday is a better day to schedule a school than a Saturday. Because of what we've been talking about. School activities occur on Saturdays, football, lacrosse, soccer, swimming. Those are all on Saturdays. Most of the major religions have provisions for Saturday night or Sunday night services, so you don't have to go to the 9 o'clock mass necessarily on Sunday. We just couldn't get enough kids on Saturday, or if we did get them signed up, it was like Carla said, it was a couple of months ahead, and then, we find out, I've got, football practice, and if I miss it, I'm off the team. So, lost.
When we first started, it was very rare to have a Sunday school.
Yeah.
I mean, there was probably less than 20%. Now it's pushing probably 40%, if not a little higher, of Sunday schools.
Yes, you have a question?
Can I get a couple of marketing best practices?
For filling your schools?
Don't ask Carla.
Yeah, don't ask. I'm probably actually not the best one to ask because we've been doing it so long. I have a built-in following. I have parents already emailing me, wanting to know when the schools will be done. But I think with what we heard from Kyle's presentation this morning, you're going to get a Facebook event page that'll come up when you get your school set up. Use that page to start promoting it. You've got great options with your own members of your club. Everybody knows somebody. Just think about your customer base as anybody that's got a teenage driver, whether that be parents, grandparents. Every kid that is close to me, that I'm close to, guess what their present is the year that they get their permit, their birthday present. They love me, thanks St. Carla, that they get to go to street survival school. So anybody that's got a kid or knows a kid, that's one of your best marketing activities right there, word of mouth. I mean, literally for us in St. Louis, we're very blessed. It's word of mouth for us, but I'm sure Tim and Arnie can speak to others.
So I have a unique situation. I have other people do it for me. My two venues, the Pikes Peak Raceway, is very interested. They're like a lot of racetracks. They don't actually do that much racing anymore. They concentrate on community activities, color runs, balloon festivals, whatever it is. But they have very robust marketing staff to attract people to those events. And so you go down there, you tell them you want to schedule a school, and you want to name them as a presenting sponsor, as long as they'll market it for you. And so you give them the information they need to do an effective marketing campaign, and you stand back and wait for them.
And just to add to, for new organizers, the national office does marketing for you as well, which is a huge help. They will start sending out email blasts to the mailing list that we've collected because of those great wait lists to anybody that's within a 150-mile radius of your school. I mean, I've had people come in as far from Indiana to come into a St. Louis school. I've had them come in from Arkansas because there aren't schools happening down in their area. They see our school, they sign up. What's a sports guy? I just saw
And I'm sorry.
So,
and on the national website schedule, there's a button that says request a school. And, I get the emails that go to the anonymous survive whatever. Street survival. Well, when are you coming to so-and-so? I always reply back, just go to that, push the button, that asks for their mailing address, so we can get their zip code, their email, their name. Then when a school opens within 150 miles of them, they'll get that. I asked Neil coming down here, I'm gonna get my numbers backwards, 32,000 email addresses on our database right now that we send it out to. Now, some of those are in Billings, Montana that we don't do a school in, but you know, for St. Louis, I can't remember how big the one in St. Louis is. It's huge.
So the other school I do, the marketing story is even more exciting than that. We'll do that at a break or something. Come see me, I'll tell you about it.
So yeah, I was gonna say, so for us, it is mostly word of mouth. Like I say, our instructors represent 11 different car clubs. I have also done various automotive events. The Great Race ended at the LeMay Museum last summer. Unfortunately, our booth wasn't very well located, but you can get the trifold flyers from National on the back. There's a big gap on there. Print up some labels. I just found a website that allows me to create a QD code that will actually track how many scans that code gets. Print up a QD code that points to your region's Tire Rack Street Survival page, not necessarily the Motorsport Reg, because if you do it to the Motorsport Reg, that's going to go out of date, probably before you've gotten rid of all your flyers. Throw a QR code on there and text information and such, and just get those flyers anywhere you can think of.
You can do the QR code just to the schedule page. Yeah, because that's always refreshing.
In St. Louis, I don't know how to explain it. We call it the angel of death. You read in a newspaper that a high school just lost 4 students because a car ran off the road. It's a tough chat, but that's the school you need to go to talk to the principal, to get 10 minutes of FaceTime, to talk about, I can help you. I can help you prevent this from happening again. I teach students how to drive to save their lives. I'm a volunteer organization, and just leave the information and wait for them to get back to you. Of the ones that I've spoke with, I haven't had anyone not call me back or not talk to me further.
I did it one step farther. There was a news broadcast about an accident, a tragic accident, killed a kid, paralyzed a kid, all of this. I emailed the reporter and just said, tragic accident, unfortunately, way too common. If you'd like to talk about it, I'm a national driving educator and I run this program, blah, blah, blah. She literally called me within 45 minutes and there was a camera at my door within an hour. I put my Street Survival shirt on and did a quick blur. We didn't even have a school ready. That was what was so bad. People started emailing me, when you're going to be in Louisville next. So be careful, the dog can catch the car, but you got to jump on opportunities like that when they arise.
Great questions. All right, we will all still be around for the rest of the day. If you
I just have one really quick other thing about scheduling, which might seem painfully obvious, but also check your local autocross schedule and racing schedule, because that's where your volunteers come from.
Excellent point. Make sure that you're not scheduling on top of other events that draw from your coach base. Okay, can we please give a big round of applause to my panelists? Thank you guys so much.